Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new around here, my name is Nikki and I am a 5th year homeschooling mom to 5 little boys. We are currently expecting our 6th baby in May, and with that comes a name change. So if you will notice, I have changed the channel name here on YouTube and I am doing a little bit of a rebranding. And with that came a new channel name, 6 Hearts Homeschool. And I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I will be soon homeschooling 6 beautiful children, and their hearts and our connection and our relationships are what I value the most in our homeschool and what I want them to get the most out of while I have them in my home. And with that, that is where I came up with my new YouTube name, and I just felt it was time to kind of niche myself down a little bit. So I first wanted to get that out there, that if you didn't notice, now you will, that if I come up in your feed, you do know me. I just changed my channel name. So with that, that's the only thing that I wanted to get out of the way. Today, I'm going to be sharing 5 things that we do not do in our homeschool. And I actually got this idea from a fellow creator. Her name is Lauren. She is the Practical Homeschooler here on YouTube, and on Instagram, I think her name is the same. But I saw her video a few weeks ago. I think it's actually from a couple months ago. And she shared 5 things that they do not do in their homeschool. And it was so interesting and I loved watching it. And so I wanted to share 5 things that we do not do in our homeschool. So without further ado, grab your coffee or your water. I have my water today, and let's chat.
I would be up waiting for you if you had to leave.
So before I begin, I want to preface this video by saying, if you do any of these things in your homeschool, that's great. This is not to shame anybody or be negative. I am just simply sharing some things that we don't do. And I think it helps other homeschoolers who may not do these things also to feel like they are not alone, because this homeschooling gig can be very isolating. So that's my only intent in sharing. And again, I just think it's interesting how we all are doing the same thing and educating our kids at home, but we all do it in such different ways. And it's just absolutely fascinating. And I love that we all get to do that. First, the first thing that we do not do is handwriting. And I shared about this a little bit a couple of years ago when I was sharing our curriculum and how we don't do any formal handwriting curriculum. Now, obviously, my children have to learn how to write. So they have done handwriting, but I am not a stickler for them doing handwriting every single day. In one of my recent videos, I shared that my 3rd and 4th grader are working through a cursive writing book. And that's simply because they need to learn how to write in cursive, obviously, but primarily for the reason of how to sign their name. And my entire reason for not doing handwriting is because I think it's just busy work, because it's not as important to know how to do anymore. And I think us as homeschool parents need to remember that, you know, the children that we are educating are not going to need to know all of the things that we necessarily needed to know how to do. And handwriting is one of those things. Obviously, they need to know how to write, but I don't care so much about them having perfect penmanship, because does it really matter? I mean, I know that myself as an adult, I may write once a day sometimes, but generally most of the writing that I do is on my phone or on a computer, and I only envision that increasing like for our kids. Like our kids are not going to have to write out a book report, obviously, because we're, but even when they get to college, like when I went to college, even when I was in college between 2004 and 2010, which was many years ago, I didn't do there wasn't a whole lot of work that I was doing handwritten, even at that point. And so I don't spend a lot of time with them perfecting their penmanship. I just want it to be somewhat legible, and again, cursive writing, simply so that they can know how to sign their name. But outside of that, we don't do handwriting, and I feel like it's very controversial in the homeschool world to not have your kids do handwriting or really focus a lot on handwriting. I feel like a lot of homeschool parents, they enjoy it, and I know that a lot of homeschool parents use it as like independent work so that they can be working with another child while one is working on handwriting. But it's just not something that I put a lot of emphasis on. As after they learn how to write all of their letters and numbers, that's about as far as we go. So that kind of goes into number 2, the second thing that we do not do in our homeschool, and that is a spelling curriculum. Again, I feel like this is another I feel like it's a little taboo because I have never done a traditional spelling curriculum with my kids, and they are average spellers. Like, I think that I have seen that it has worked, and not doing anything with that. So I had a veteran homeschool mom back when I started. Her kids were entering middle and high school, so she'd already been through this with little kids, and she said that she never did any grammar or anything like that with her kids until high school. And I thought it was so interesting, and so I kind of took her lead, and I haven't done any grammar that's outside of like their language arts curriculum, and I haven't done any spelling that is beyond what we do in their curriculum. And even what is built into their curriculum, we do it loosely. So I think that has been enough for them. But also what I have done instead is a simple journal prompt. So beginning in kindergarten, they have done a daily journal prompt, and up until their 3rd and 4th grade, I will have them, dictate to me what they want to write, and I will write it out on a whiteboard for them, and then they will copy it. And I think that is what has truly helped them learn how to spell. They have not needed anything else beyond that. And again, they are average spellers for their age. It's age appropriate. They're at level. I think that they write at a 3rd and 4th grade level, spelling and writing wise. So for us, I have never done that. It is unlikely that I will ever do a formal handwriting or a formal spelling curriculum. The third thing that I do not do in my homeschool is every subject every day. So we started this about a year ago, and I have shared about it frequently here. I will link that video here and down below of our block scheduling. So we do block scheduling, which means we are not doing every subject every day. We do English language arts one day, math on another day, and we rotate between those two. We have co-op mixed in there, so on that day they're not doing any of their language arts or their math. Then I will sprinkle in some of our unit study, which involves history, science, whatever it is for that day. Now, the exception is that I will have them read every day. I will have them read for 15 to 20 minutes independently, just to get that repetition and that fluency for them, especially my third grader who is a struggling reader. He needs just a little bit of extra time every day just to spend reading. I know that this does not work for everyone, but block scheduling has been game changing for us. If you are finding that your kids are struggling to get through all of the things that you're having them do, I would strongly encourage you to look into block scheduling or even looping your subjects. Looping takes too much organization that I do not have, but looping your subjects is another way to do that. I tried it very briefly a couple years ago, and it is not for me. My kids would probably do fine with it. I am not organized enough to be able to do that. So block scheduling, it is the same, and it is very simple and straightforward, and that has worked wonders for us, which leads me into the fourth thing that we do not do. We do not have a very strict schedule. I feel like maybe one day when I'm not pregnant or when I don't have babies and toddlers, maybe we might have more of a strict schedule, but we have never really had a very strict schedule of our homeschool. It has been very much go with the flow from the beginning. And I know that this does not work for everybody, but ours has kind of changed. Our schedule has changed as our life has changed, as schedules have changed, routines have changed, as we've added kids and, babies have grown into toddler. Like, we've had to change things. There was a period of time where I worked with one of my sons first and only him, did all of his, and then I went and sat with my other child and did all of his, completely separate. And we did that for a while because that's what I needed to do in order to make it happen. And because of that, we have just always ebbed and flowed with how our life has gone. So at this current stage, we generally start around 10 a.m. I don't have a set, I don't make them wake up at a certain time. Now, if it's 9:30, which my fourth grader, he's been sleeping in later and later, and there are days where it's 9:30 and he's still sleeping and I have to get him up. But generally, I let them wake up on their own, and I've always done that. But as far as having a very strict, this is when we start, this is when we end, this is exactly what we're doing and when we're doing it, I have never really done that. I want their education to be an enjoyable experience, and I don't want them to ever feel pressured to do things at a certain time or get things done at a certain time. I know that that will change as they get older, but they're all still elementary age. Like, my fourth grader is my oldest child. So once he gets into later middle school and high school, things will definitely change, of course. But for now, we have never had a super strict schedule. I have often told new homeschool parents, I have shared with them about the first year that we homeschooled when my oldest was in kindergarten, and my second son, he was 4, and my oldest, he had turned 5 in the summer. And his kindergarten year, we probably did traditional sit down, write type of like book work his kindergarten year, maybe once or twice a week. Maybe. Twice was on the high end, generally. I would say at most we did 3 days a week. A majority of his kindergarten year was spent exploring and being outside and going to the library and having play dates with friends and going to the science center and a museum and reading books. We watched a lot of documentaries, and we did not do a ton of sit down and do this work. So it definitely started there. And from then we have, again, ebbed and flowed. And I have seen that as they have gotten older, we've definitely have more of a routine. We've always had a rhythm, but that has changed. I have never been a very strict, this is when we're doing something, and this is when we're starting, this is when we're ending. And a lot of that is because of me and my husband's work schedule in the past has been difficult. So we've always had to work around that. And myself being pregnant and breastfeeding and having babies and toddlers, it's hard. It's hard to have a really strict routine, or really strict schedule rather, when you have all of these different variables that are constantly changing. And, we're adding another baby this year, so that won't change. It will continue. Thankfully, this year, this time, we will have a spring baby, so I will have this summer to kind of get adjusted to having 6 of them. And by the fall, I hope to have established some type of like rhythm or routine, so that when we kind of start ebbing, getting into school again, then hopefully I can figure it out. And again, I know that does not work for everybody. I know that a lot of homeschool parents prefer to have strict start and stop times for their own sanity, and I get it. I totally get it. I absolutely do. So this is just what has worked for us. And then the 5th and final thing that I see a lot of homeschool parents do, and I did try it for a short period of time, and it did not last very long, simply because it just didn't really make sense for us. But I don't set out my children's work for them ahead of time. I just don't do that. It feels a little redundant for us because they have these, let me show you right here. They have these little bins. This is from IKEA, and this is where they store, this is where their work is, their curriculum is. So I have never really felt the need to like set it out on the table for them. They just go and grab it. And because of the curriculum that we use, it's very open and go. I will simply tab, they will open it, I will look, and we put tabs on where they need to start and end, and that's it. I don't need to set it out for them. They can do that. They can just walk over there and get it themselves. I don't feel the need to set it out ahead of time. Again, I think that this ties into a lot of our block scheduling, which I've actually never set out their work, but with doing block scheduling, this is more efficient for us. It just hasn't really made sense for me to set it out ahead of time, because we just simply open and go on from there, wherever they ended the last day. I think for a lot of homeschool parents, it probably just is helping them to be prepared and their kids to be prepared, which again, I fully understand. I think if we if we do things a little bit differently, it might make sense, but all of ours is very open and go, so I don't feel a need to set things out for them ahead of time. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a big old thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one.
The world could fall down, it's gonna